And the stage is yours. Thank you for being here.
Does anyone remember the social, political hellscape that is choosing teams for basketball when you are in school? Everybody lined up against the back wall, 2 team captains choosing their victims, and you at 8 years old praying to whatever God you don't even know exists yet or believe in, that you're not last. These were the parts of my childhood that I would run crying home from school to tell my parents about. Maybe it was the school teams, maybe it was the mean girls when I was in middle school, which is a whole other story. But there was always something that made me anxious or insecure or feeling left out. Luckily, my English father, my sweet English father, always had the same wisdom. He would get on eye level with me, put his hands on my shoulders and say, "You're crying too much. You're being too sensitive." Understandably, that didn't feel great for an 8-year-old, but I learned something in that moment. That sensitivity is something to be ashamed of. That sensitivity is something dangerous because sensitivity is something that other people might use against you, that they might make fun of you for. And as we get older, sensitivity, being emotional, being imperfect, being upset, whatever it is, it becomes unprofessional. It becomes undesirable in a partner. It becomes drama in a friend group. And so I learned very quickly that being sensitive was not okay. I developed this idea that being perfect was the solution. And so I tried to become the perfect person. I shrunk myself in my body with eating disorders, trying to be as small as possible because I believed that that's what perfect looks like. At work, I was a complete pushover. I let anybody walk all over me. I took extra shifts whenever someone needed a cover, even if they never said thank you. In my relationships, I became more like a servant than a partner. And this worked for long enough because nobody ever found out how sensitive I actually was. Nobody ever found out how much I actually care. Until I had a very 90s style crash out of like break up with the boyfriend, date the guy with the motorcycle, cut bangs, every other bad decision that when you're the audience, you're like, I can't even watch this. And I collapsed from the inside out. I went through a period of what a lot of us would call healing after this. And as dystopian as it sounds, I healed on Instagram. I had learned that being sensitive with the people around me wasn't safe. It was embarrassing. And so I was sensitive into the ether, to strangers. And what I found very quickly was that when I was sensitive, when I shared these things that I was insecure about, that I hadn't figured out yet, that I was doing wrong in eating disorder recovery, in unlearning being a people pleaser, in unlearning an anxious attachment in dating. I hate those words. When I shared and I was sensitive and vulnerable, people actually started to share back. And this is 5-6 years ago when social media was actually a bit more social. And I started making friends. And quickly, I started building community online. It's not long after that, I started having people reach out to me and ask me, can you teach me how to do what you've done? And I remember Googling before ChatGPT, can this be a job? That's how I found coaching. And I actually started helping people access their own sensitivity. I didn't call it that at the time. It was a lot of healing body image, which is the work that I do now, giving women confidence. But it was allowing them to be their imperfect selves, to release so much of what they had learned was the dangerous, shameful part of them that they needed to hide at all costs. And what I found in this process is that being sensitive is a great business strategy. Let me tell you why. In a world of AI, algorithms, viral trends, Anybody else use social media a lot, just in general, maybe for business, maybe personally? Yeah, about half the room. You burn out real quick trying to chase something that you feel you need to become and that you are probably not. And it's always evolving. It's quite exhausting. Being yourself, especially when you don't even have to do it perfectly, like if you do it a little bit shitty, it actually kind of adds to the effect. Not knowing things, so sustainable and extremely fulfilling for the heart as well. But when you're running a business, sustainability is so important, right? When I'm signing clients to work with them in coaching, it was also beautiful to see how much that they already trusted me just because of me being sensitive out in the world, out online. I would have people get on calls with me, and I was so young at the time, I was brand new to this, and I would be like, so why do you want to do this work with me? And they'd say, you know, that post you shared where you talked about how hard it is for you to gain weight, how you cried because your pants from last winter don't fit, you understand me. Or they'd say something like, when you shared about how hard it is for you to stop calorie counting, even though you've stopped counting the numbers, you still see them in your head, I understood that you've been where I am now, and I know you can help me. Or they'll say something like, you talk about how you don't have it all figured out, and you're the only person that does that, and I need that in my life. And being sensitive, this thing that I had thought was something I needed to push down and be ashamed of, it became my superpower. It became my superpower, and it's beautiful. I didn't realize how far I had come in this journey until I was at the airport in the US this summer. I was taking my parents on a hiking trip in Denver, Colorado, if anyone's familiar, a place they had never been before. And this business I built of helping women be themselves, be sensitive, be imperfect, whatever that means to them, it's funding this trip, and it's a beautiful thing. We're walking through the airport. The travel has taken so much longer than we expected, and all of a sudden, I hear, Sarah? And I'm like, okay, voices in my head, I don't have time for this right now. And then I hear, Sarah in yellow? Is that you? Sarah in yellow is my Instagram name for the last 7 years. And I'm like, oh, okay, it's a real person, I'm not crazy. And at this point, my parents have heard it too. And so my parents are looking around, and they're like, you're not supposed to scream in airports in America. But I look around, and there's this girl sitting at her gate, already crying, already standing up, lugging her bags over with her to come say hi to me. And this has happened to me enough times over the years that I'm used to it, I'm excited. But this is the first time she's ever met me. And looking at her, one of my first thoughts is, she's being really sensitive. She's crying, and she comes up to me, and she's like, is it really you? And I'm like, yes, child. What's your name? She's like, my name is Jess. I followed your work for like 3 years, and I just have to say, thank you so much for sharing who you are online. I do a lot of body image work, so she says to me something along the lines of, thank you for showing who you are without sucking in and posing and trying to be someone you're not, because we look like each other, and it's so healing for her. She shares something along the lines of, thank you for saying the things in your life that are hard. Thank you for showing the difficult moments, because we both have a chronic illness. And her and I have that in common. And I show the parts where I'm miserable on the ground and I don't know what's wrong with me. And Jess and I have a short exchange where my parents are standing there like, my mom starts taking pictures at one point. I'm like, Mom, stop. But Jess and I have this beautiful short exchange where Jess is realizing the value that she's put in my work, the trust that she's put in me, the trust she's put in my sensitivity and vulnerability was worth it. It's real. And I'm realizing that my ability to be sensitive for the last 3 years has changed the life of someone I've never even met. So I know that being sensitive is not something that we're told to honor or celebrate, that it's not productive or a good business strategy, but what I want you to remember is that being sensitive is hot. And what I mean by that is that being sensitive is honest, it is open-hearted, and it is trusting. What I mean by that is that being honest means showing up imperfectly in who you are. Being open-hearted means recognizing that you might meet people like Jess, whose lives you will change because of your sensitivity and your vulnerability. And being trusting is knowing that even if you don't know why you're feeling the way that you feel or you're having the experience that you're having, that there's a reason, and you can make a reason out of nothing if you need to. So, sensitivity is not shameful, it is not unprofessional, it is not embarrassing, it is not girly. It is a superpower when we stop treating it like a secret. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
That was great.
That was great. That was really great.